Welcome back to another episode of the Astrology Magic Podcast, where we talk about astrology in a way that helps you create magic in your life. And I am your host and astrologer, Rachel Timos. I'm excited to be with you guys here today. We got some important astrology to talk about. So what we have this week is we have a Mercury Kazimi. What a Mercury Kazimi is it's when the sun illuminates Mercury. So Mercury is moving retrograde. It's moving backwards through the sky in Leo. And when it meets up with the sun, this is going to be happening on July 31st. It looks around 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. News can be illuminated. That's a Mercury Kazimi. It is clarity of insight, clarity of thought. It could be a message coming through that gives you an aha, an awakening. It could be an illumination of a truth. It could be an illumination of a lie that's been made in the past that's now coming to light, specifically around Leo themes. And those themes are romance, dating, fun, your authentic self-expression, but also the ego. You know, we just had a new moon in Leo. And that new moon felt like an ego death to me that began a new beginning. If this past week you've been having a lot of things come up related to your ego and feeling safe and what makes you feel safe, that could be related to that new moon in Leo. One of my clients also asked me what an ego death is, so I wanted to explain that real quick before we get deeper into the Kazimi, but ego death could be around not wanting a secret to come out. Maybe you did some shady shit. Maybe you cheated in a relationship, because it is the sign of Leo. We are talking about romance. We're talking about dating and all those different things. Maybe you cheated. Well, an ego death would be that truth coming to light and you losing the things that secret was protecting you from losing. And then you take responsibility for the fact that it was my ego that got me into the situation. It was my ego that got me to cheat. I am never going to do that again. I'm never going to be romantically secretive again. It could come with new values in your life in ego death, at least in my experience. It comes with surrendering control. That's an ego death. Now, what's really interesting about this Mercury Kazimi and how it's following this new moon in Leo, where it was planting the seeds of an ego death, is news could come about. And this news could come from over a year ago, from the past, right? We're in a Mercury retrograde. A truth could come to light that propels you into a new way of moving throughout your life, because you can't keep holding on to that old story anymore. The jig is up, pretty much. And the reason I'm saying all of this is because this Mercury retrograde started at 15 degrees Leo. Now, the 15th degree of any sign is the purest form of that sign. So 15 degrees of Leo, that is the highest form of Leo. Leo is the king-queen archetype. Leo is about success, leadership, abundance. If we talk about the purest form of Leo, it is people who just want to be seen and are dramatic and just want to have fun. And that's what their ego's after, right? They just think that they're the best. That could be the purest form of Leo. And I've been thinking a lot about how a year ago in September, we had these squares between Jupiter and Gemini and Saturn and Pisces. It was about last September. Well, last September is when if you've been following the Blake Lively drama, last September is when Blake Lively started promoting It Ends With Us. And a lot of people started getting mad at her because she was promoting her alcohol brand during a domestic violence movie. And she ended up blaming the domestic violence movie for promoting bad and not taking responsibility for the fact that people were really just mad at her for promoting her alcohol brand while she's promoting this movie about domestic violence. She was trying to lie to herself. Her ego was trying to lie to herself. This is these squares to Saturn and Pisces. Pisces hides things. Jupiter and Gemini was from our mind and how we think and communicate. She was trying to hide that it was her fault to protect her own ego for this flop of a promotion and for everyone being mad at her. And it started this whole feud between her and this guy, Justin Baldoni, who started the movie. And now they've been in a legal feud ever since then. And it's been going back and forth. And her reputation's been getting ruined and ruined and ruined. I remember actually before that September, I knew that any lies, any deception told during that month was going to come out. And so I remember I was like telling my truths to everyone. I was like, I'm not going to get caught up in this cycle. Like, I'm not going to, this is how I use astrology. I'm not going to be the one who lies during these squares and it comes out a year later in a horrible way because Saturn's involved and Saturn does karma. And so what's really interesting about all of this is Blake Lively, who started telling those lies, last September has a 15-degree Leo ascendant. And what has been happening since Mercury went retrograde in Leo at 15 degrees, she's been starting to lose grip on the case. A lot of her tactics to get around and throw shade and win in the media and win in her lawsuit have stopped working or reflecting on the truth. The truth is coming to light. And that's why I'm saying things that happened a year ago, back last September, that someone lied about, or deceptions that happened, things that weren't seen, can start to come to light, especially at this Mercury Kazimi. This Mercury Kazimi is happening at 9 degrees Leo. So I would say if you have anywhere between 15 degrees Leo and 3 degrees Leo planets in your charts or placements in your chart, you're going to be feeling this Mercury retrograde in Leo. If you have even your nodes in Aquarius or Leo, if they're around those degrees, you could be feeling this Mercury retrograde in Leo. Things are coming to light. Truth around your authentic self-expression. You can't hide your authentic self-expression under your ego anymore. That's what I feel is happening with this Kazimi. What's really interesting about the first day of Mercury retrograde in Leo is that was the day that CEO got caught cheating at that concert with his HR director. Leo is leaders. Leo is romance. Well, what happened the first day of Mercury retrograde in Leo? They were shown at a concert that's also Leo on the big screen for the public to see. It was brought to light. I really believe a lot more of that is going to happen throughout this retrograde, especially on the 31st when we have a Mercury Kazimi. And the reason I say this is interesting. Okay. Pluto in Aquarius, it is bringing truth to the collective. Aquarius is the collective. Pluto is truth. When Pluto hides truth with power and control, will die if the truth comes out. Well, with Pluto, the truth always comes out. That's what Pluto teaches us. In the long run, the truth always comes out, and actually the truth frees us. And actually, the faster you take ownership of the truth, instead of letting it come out in a crazy way, the more healing and empowerment you will find. Well, when Mercury goes Kazimi on the 31st, the moon will be in Scorpio. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. And the moon will be squaring Pluto. As soon as the moon enters Scorpio, around the time we have this Mercury Kazimi. A square is a challenging aspect. I'm just saying this for people to prepare themselves. If you've been lying about something for the past year, wouldn't you rather be the one to own that truth and feel that feeling and own that lesson to begin with? That's just what I've been thinking about with this Mercury Kazimi. It's going to come out somehow. And it could come out through a relationship, through another person. Because not only is the moon in Scorpio squaring Pluto in Aquarius, but Venus, which is our relationships, will be in Cancer at that time, trining the moon in Scorpio. So it makes me feel like if a truth does come out, it's going to be a relationship that spills the tea, or it's going to be a self-worth thing where you end up exposing yourself by accident because of a lack of self-worth or a lack of self-esteem, a lack of emotional control because you're having a lot of feelings come up and something slips out, whoops, and the truth comes out. So that's the shadow side of this Mercury Kazimi that I am clocking. But I also feel a lot of power that can come out of this Kazimi because, like I said, the truth brings you into power. The truth aligns you with your authentic self. I am fascinated with near-death experiences, and there's this one near-death experience that I listened to, and it was this woman, and she talked about how she had an ego death at 30. It was like her second near-death experience, she called it. She had a real near-death experience where she actually died and came back to life, but then she had an ego death experience. And about 15 years later, in that ego death experience, she realized everything in her life wasn't really in alignment with her truth. Her romantic relationship, her friendships, her career, her job, and all of it came to light at once. And I don't know the exact situation that happened for her. I don't know if it was her who was like, none of this is me, and she decided to just get rid of all of it and start over and align with her truth. But it was from that moment on, whether something came out and created the ego death or she chose it on her own. I think it's way more empowering to choose it on your own. She let go of everything that wasn't her in order to empty herself, and now she's been living a life very in alignment with her. And so that's the really empowering side I see about this Leo Kazimi. It's an opportunity to break free from where you protect your ego in order to be truly authentically expressed in who you are. So yeah, I know that's intense. I personally like intensity. This is how I like to use astrology to learn and grow. I didn't record this to scare you. That wasn't my purpose. The purpose is if you find yourself in a death grip this week around something, around a truth, around something you're obsessing over, around a secret, around where you feel powerless, a truth can be revealed this week. And if it's painful, the best thing you can do with this Pluto Scorpio energy is surrender to it and ask yourself, where is my power in this situation? And often the power is all inside of you. And you being in your truth and realigning your life with your truth, even if it feels like death. Even if it feels like everything in you wants to scream and kick and hold on for dear life. Surrender. That's what I have to say. Okay, that's all I have to say for this Mercury Kazimi. I hope this gave you some insight. I hope it helps you surrender this week. This could not be impacting you whatsoever because here's the thing, not all transits are hitting your chart exactly, and that's why it's helpful to get readings or do coaching with an astrologer. I like to do long-term astrology coaching with people where we use the astrology on a moment-by-moment basis to find the lesson so you can grow and evolve in a really deep way over time. That's how you get the most growth. I'll give certain people single one-off readings, and you can get big growth from that, but really, in my experience, the best, deepest growth using astrology is using it as a continued awareness to surrender, to accept, to learn a lesson. So if you want to apply for coaching with me, I'll put the link in the show notes below. I kind of changed my mind on giving readings. A month ago, I said I didn't want to give readings anymore, but I've been in the mood again. I've started giving a few more readings to people that I've really had really good readings with, and it's brought me back into the mood. I had stopped giving readings because I don't like meeting a bunch of people for one time and never seeing them again and never getting to form that intimate bond and not knowing if the astrology is actually changing their life or not. But I give myself the right to change my mind, and I have had a desire to do readings again. So I'll put my reading link in the show notes below, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.